It's Tennessee and Mississippi State. It's Joey Aguilar against Blake Shapen, who has the edge at quarterback.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Thursday morning Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town covering your Tennessee Volunteers. And, of course, your host of Locked On Vols. Weekday mornings when you get up, wherever you find your podcast, free and available. Again, wherever you find it, everydayers could not do this show without you. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda, where you move and you can be moved. All right, we got a lot to discuss here today. Throwback Thursday, taking a look at the 1954 win over Mississippi State for the Volunteers. That's with Neyland Press Corps, coming up with Noah Taylor in segment number 3. Crossing it over with Locked On Mississippi State in segment number 2. Get to hear, behind enemy lines a little bit, the scout on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. That's coming up in segment number 2. But first, I want to take a look at the two quarterbacks, Joey Aguilar against Blake Shapen here in segment number 1. On the surface, Tennessee and Mississippi State have pretty good quarterbacks, right? You have Joey Aguilar that is off to a phenomenal start to his Tennessee career. 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,124 passing yards, a 75.6 QBR. Pretty solid. You look at what Blake Shapen has done for Mississippi State, his second year with Mississippi State, but of course missed the last 8 games in 2024 due to injury, and he's having a good year. 7 touchdowns, 2 picks, 884 yards passing, a 64.2 QBR. So pretty good numbers on the surface. You look at Joey Aguilar, he's third in the conference in passing yards with 1,124. That's third behind Taylor Green, who's in second at 1,191 yards, so almost 70 yards more, and third behind John Mateer at 1,215, so almost 100 yards more. But, of course, John Mateer is going to miss a couple of games due to having surgery on his thumb on his throwing hand. That whole thing's interesting. Some people saying he could be back as early as 3 weeks for the Red River Shootout or rivalry, whatever they call it nowadays. The others saying it could be at some point this year. I think 3 weeks on a thumb on your throwing hand is a bit premature. I think this one's going to be one to watch heading into the Tennessee game November the 1st. Obviously, big storyline of that one if he can't go in the game at Neyland Stadium. But John Mateer, clearly, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, brought the Heisman conversation. That's a massive blow for Oklahoma here in the short term as he's leading the conference in passing yards. But Joey Aguilar, third in that regard. You have Blake Shapen, who's currently 8th in the SEC in passing yards. Touchdowns. Joey Aguilar is tied for the SEC lead with Taylor Green with 12. Green has 4 picks. Aguilar only has 3. And again, 2 of those for sure is not his fault. You can make the case that really none of those are bad interceptions. You have Blake Shapen, who is, I can't even find him on here. He's well down. Okay, he's 8th. He's 8th in the conference with 7 touchdowns right now. Look at quarterback rating. You have Joey Aguilar, who's 4th in the conference right now at 176.1. Blake Shapen is 10th in the conference right now with 160.4. Again, these are box score stats, pretty solid stats, but why don't we dive down deeper into the stats, and from there we're going to go to Pro Football Focus. Something I'm very intrigued with in this matchup is the ability to throw the deep ball. Joey Aguilar has been phenomenal at throwing the deep ball in this season so far. He's completed 10 of 17 passes of 20 yards or more down the field for 407 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's incredible. On passes 20 yards or more down the field, Joey Aguilar has completed 10 passes, 8 of which have gone for touchdowns. 10 of 17, he's completing passes at 58.8% on said throws. You compare that to Blake Shapen. Okay, Blake Shapen has completed only 6 of 15 attempts in deep passes, 20 yards or more down the field, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not horrible. Again, the completion percentage is going to come well down the farther you throw the football, right? I mean, the completion percentage at or behind the line of scrimmage, very high. Intermediate, 10 to 19, respectable. It needs to be. And then deep down the field, I mean, it's going to be lower because that's a low percentage completion, type pass to make. So Shapen 6 of 15 in that regard, 339 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Look at medium, 10 to 19 yards. Shapen's 9 of 15, completing passes at 60%, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is the area where Joey Aguilar, if you want to say, I'm not going to call it a struggle because I don't think it's a struggle, but this is where he's not completed his high percentage of throws. Passes 10 to 19 yards, or what we call intermediates, 14 of 25, 56% completion, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joey Aguilar has been phenomenal. Short range, within 10 yards, 37 of 50. That's 74%, 379 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Shapen, 76%, 32 of 42, 233, a touchdown, no picks. And then both these guys have completed, Shapen's completed 100% of his 20 passes attempts behind the line of scrimmage. Aguilar's completed 17 of 21 for 81%. So both these quarterbacks have done some things well. I think the clear advantage, if we're breaking down specific quarterback to quarterback, Aguilar, his deep ball has been exceptionally better than that of what Blake Shapen's been. And again, Blake Shapen, it's not like it's horrible, but Aguilar, again, is completing at 58%. 8 of his 10 completions of 20 yards or more down the field have found the checkerboards, have found the end zone, which is just really, really impressive. So I kind of wanted to break down a little quarterback to quarterback, and I know there's more storylines in this game. Obviously, Tennessee's run game, Mississippi State's run game. Mississippi State's got 2 really talented backs, and Davin Booth and Fluff Bothwell coming over from South Alabama. That's a nice 1-2 punch. Bothwell is about 235 pounds. He's a load. A big boy. And remember, Syracuse had a back that weighed about 230. Tennessee struggled with him a little bit. So I think that's obviously a storyline in this game. But if we're breaking down quarterback to quarterback, both quarterbacks playing well so far, but Aguilar's numbers are better significantly than that of Blake Shapen. And I think Blake Shapen's playing good football, and he's a reason that Mississippi State's kind of having a transformation type season for sure. All right, when we come back, what does Locked On Mississippi State have to say about this matchup? We'll go behind enemy lines for a crossover segment. That is coming up next. We continue on here. This is your Thursday morning Locked On Vols. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For Tennessee, I mean, who else, right? I mean, who's been phenomenal so far this season? That has been Chris Brazzell. That touchdown, first drive of the football game. He has a nation-leading 6 touchdowns so far this season. Chris Brazzell has been fantastic. No hesitation, no delay. And obviously, if you've been watching, he's been doing it every single week. This is no fluke. Chris Brazzell is on a streak. And just like Chris Brazzell delivered for Tennessee, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November the 18th. Football season is here. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's easy to make the game more exciting for me, whether I'm watching my team or just catching up with my fantasy football options on Sunday afternoons. Quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to my Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. FanDuel, it is where you can make every single moment more. Crossing it over here, Locked On Vols meets Locked On Mississippi State here for this segment. I am Eric, and joined by Jaren here at Mississippi State. And exciting game coming up this weekend, man. Tennessee on the road, Mississippi State 4-0, SEC opener. Probably the biggest game at home. Obviously, in 2 weeks, Arizona State was huge, but This is probably the biggest home game in quite some time, I would imagine, for Mississippi State, right?
Yeah, no, it's massive, especially with the 4-0 start. I think it's the first 4-0 start since like 2014 and 2013. They're doing the big whiteout game, so it's going to be a crazy fun game. Obviously, the Arizona State was a big one, but once you got past that, this is even bigger than that, and especially with the start of SEC play. And two very similar style teams in terms of how they run their offense and stuff, so it should be a lot of fun.
You know, a lot of people have been making that a talking point this week, and they spent time together at UCF. Quarterbacks coach Levy was OC for Heupel and all that. I think I don't maybe want to say it gives the advantage, but I think it helps the defenses even more. Offenses are just going to kind of go out there and do their thing, but these defenses they see it in practice every day. They saw it in camp repeatedly. Yeah. They know the tempo. I think this is going to help both defenses out, maybe even more than the offenses.
Yeah, and the big part that you mentioned, I think, is the tempo, because that's the thing I think that surprises a lot of teams if they're not used to it. But these two defenses should be very used to it because of what they see every single day. Now, they don't play teams that always run tempo, but at least they see it in practice. But yeah, and you know, we were kind of talking before we started recording, but the funny thing about Tennessee and Mississippi State is they get talked about as this high-powered offense, and you think it's all quarterback-led, but it's really running back-led and how much they like to run the football.
Yeah, no doubt. Tennessee's got a really a two-headed monster. They'll play three, but Deshaun Bishop and Star Thomas are kind of the lead two backs, and Tennessee's averaging well over 200 yards a game. I mean, they've had 200. They've had over 200 yards a game in every game except the Georgia game. Star Thomas has been really good, man. Physical runner, has got a nice spin move. Deshaun Bishop is not the biggest guy, but he's like that guy that's very patient, finds a crease and just hits it hard. And Peyton Lewis, the third guy, who will get some run. He's probably the better all-around looking of the three, and I think he's got the highest potential. And he's a physical runner as well. So Tennessee runs the football well. Everything's built off the run. For Mississippi State, I am so intrigued by Fluff Bothwell. I mean, love the name. He's 230 pounds. He's a load. And then, of course, you got Booth back as well. It sounds like Mississippi State is running the football very effectively this season.
Yeah, no, they're led by the running game. And that's something that Landon, my co-host, and I talked about all offseason is this needs to be a run-heavy team, especially because Booth had a really good season last year, ended the year really strong. He got to come back when they didn't expect originally. And then, obviously, you had Bothwell, who was one of the top running backs in the transfer portal as well, and he is 271 yards, 4 touchdowns, and almost 6 yards a carry. And he finally had his big breakout game because we kind of been waiting for him to kind of show that potential. And last game, 17 carries, 101 yards, and then the game before that, he even had 93 yards. So he's starting to rack up the yardage. And Booth, I feel like they've kind of been managing him more, just knowing that SEC play was around the corner. He played a lot in the first 2 games, hasn't played as much lately. So I think this is the game that you're going to see both of those in heavy doses.
Both teams going to revolve around the run game, obviously, but quarterbacks make a big difference. I want to hear about Blake Shapen here in a moment. I'll speak on Aguilar. Everybody knows the offseason. Nico leaves. What was Tennessee going to do? Oh, they get this scrub. Oh, it's going to be awful. It's turned out pretty well so far. He's got a big test first time playing in an environment like this for Joey Aguilar, so I think that's a focal point for sure. But he's been phenomenal. Deep ball's been great, completing 58% of those, has 8 touchdowns of 20 yards or more, which is really impressive. I think his presence more than anything. I mean, his demeanor just stays level, never too high, never too low. He's been wrapped up in the backfield a couple of times. His escapability has been really good. Eyes downfield, completing passes. He's kind of again, Nico had the better intangibles, but I mean, as far as a fit and kind of married into the system, Aguilar's been fantastic. He's been so much more than anyone bargained for at this point in time. Georgia game showed us, I mean, Tennessee's offense, the passing game with Joey Aguilar, I mean, they can beat anybody in the country with the way that he played that day. So it's been really, really solid. Blake Shapen came there last year from Baylor, started off the season hot, injured, back, looking like his old self, and he's got some pretty good numbers as well.
Yeah, no, he's playing really, really good this year, and just he's been that senior veteran presence, completing 67% of his passes, almost 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 picks, and he's just been kind of the steady force for the offense. And when we saw last year when he went down, the offense kind of went downhill, and that's just because you need that veteran presence back there, and he's able to kind of calm some people down. He was massive in the Arizona State game. That was a game that I talked about the running game. They didn't have much success running the football against Arizona State, and so he had a lot on his shoulders. and he rose to the occasion. Now, he's coming off maybe his worst game because he missed some of the deep throws against Northern Illinois, but how much of that is maybe they're overlooking the opponent, we'll see. But because that's one thing that I've been impressed by him the most this year, because Landon and I talked about this offseason, we weren't sure how good he was at throwing the deep ball because, one, he has been hurt a lot, and so you haven't really seen him play a lot. But two, Mississippi State didn't really have the receivers to stretch the field last year, whereas this year they do, and he's been excellent at it overall.
Yeah, he's playing some improved football, and I actually liked the quarterback last year, the true freshman. I know he's not there anymore, but anytime you lose a veteran, even though he was a newcomer, it's easy to see your season kind of go downhill. Mm-hmm. Let's look at defenses real quick. I think Tennessee's defense, elite in 2024, was talked about by me as well. I mean, I'm right here, hand up, about being elite again here in 2025. So far, that's not been the case. They're so much better than what they've played. We'll hit on injuries here in a moment. They've been just ravaged by injuries so far this season, but giving up too many in the pass game. I think they're rushing the quarterback pretty well. I don't think linebackers have played up to their potential. In synopsis, I think Tennessee's defense is so much better than the way it's playing right now, and I'm intrigued to see if they kind of take a step going up against, again, an offense that they see all the time. Players look out for Joshua Josephs on the edge. Colton Hood is one of the best cornerbacks in the country right now. Actually, CBS Sports has put out a way too early mock draft. He's a first rounder, which is crazy to me because he was number 3 on the depth chart coming into the season. I'm intrigued to see that step that Tennessee's defense can take. Mississippi State, oh my gosh, historically bad defense last year. They're about to see their first test truly in Tennessee's offense, but what an improved group on that side of the football for Jeff Lebby.
Yeah, no, that's been the biggest surprise because we thought the offense would take a jump because usually they do. When you have a coach that's an offensive coach, usually that second year you take the jump. But the defense taking the big jump that it has been the surprise. And, the pass coverage has been really, in my opinion, the biggest surprise. They allow only 129 yards a game. And, they played Sam Leavitt in Arizona State, which has Leavitt and obviously Tyson, who is a very formidable foe, and held them to only 82 yards passing. On the downside, they're only allowing 133 yards, but Arizona State had 251 yards rushing that game. And so that's where I think Tennessee could take advantage. A big reason is, and we'll get to it more in the injuries, but they've lost their best defensive lineman for the year. But for some guys to kind of know, Isaac Smith obviously is the one to note the most. The safety, 24 tackles, 1 interception this year. Nick Mitchell, that linebacker, 21 tackles as well. The worry is they don't really get a lot of sacks and they don't force a lot of TFLs because the guy that was doing that is out for the year. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Mention injuries. Go ahead on that note. Best defensive lineman, who's his backup and how big of a drop-off is it?
Yeah, Will Whitson was obviously a major loss for them, and that was a transfer, I believe, from Coastal Carolina that they were high on coming into the year, and he was just playing great football. He still leads the team with 2 sacks and 5 tackles for loss, despite going down in that Arizona State game. He's going to be replaced by Deontay Anderson, kind of, a lot of several different people, but Deontay Anderson has kind of been the one that has stepped up for him. But he only has 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss, so it's quite a bit of a drop-off going with the backup because Whitson was, again, this was a team last year that was bad at tackles for loss and sacks. They've been bad again this year, but the one bright spot was Whitson, which they didn't have a bright spot last year, and then you lose him. So it's been a big loss.
Real quick, what about the offensive line? Several different combinations. Are they healthy now? What's that look like?
Yeah, no, the offensive line, that's another one that's been very impressive to me because overall they've been fairly healthy. They lost Blake Shapen in the first game, but I believe he's back. And so they've been fairly healthy. I even saw a post the other day by PFSN that they had the 8th ranked offensive line in college football. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they've been much improved off last year because, like the defense, they were historically bad. And in 1 year, Phil Lodeholt's done a great job with them.
Tennessee injury report, down your 2 starting cornerbacks. One is Jermon McCoy, who's being mocked as a first-rounder, All-American last year, coming off a torn ACL. He hadn't played yet this year. The other is Ricky Gibson, who I thought with a good year is probably NFL bound. He has been out since the first half of the opener. So Colton Hood, who transferred from Colorado, who Again, I mentioned earlier, he's actually being mocked by CBS Sports as a first rounder now. He's been phenomenal. I mean, PFF loves the guy. What a godsend he's been, because of the injury. So he's at one corner. True freshman Ty Redmond, who, this is now game 5. He's played every snap at corner since the opener. Whenever Gibson went down, he's at the other corner. So depth has been an issue at corner right now. Defensive line, Jackson Moy should be back for Tennessee in this game. Defensive tackle, he's missed. I think he played like the first 3 snaps of the season, then got hurt. Still without David Hobbs in the interior, so cornerback and defensive tackle has been interesting for Tennessee this year because of injuries. Ethan Davis, number 2 tight end that plays a ton. We'll see if he plays in this game. He missed last week. Tennessee was also without another defensive end in Tyree West, but I think he's going to be back as well. So getting healthier, but injuries on the defensive side of the football has been big for Tennessee. Last thing out the door, game picks. Tennessee, according to our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, I believe last time I checked it was like 8.5. That total about 62.5. I like Tennessee to win. I think it's certainly not going to be a cakewalk. I think the environment's going to be awesome. Tennessee, like a lot of teams in the SEC, tough to win on the road. But I do like Tennessee to cover the spread, but I like the under in this game. I think Tennessee's just going to have too much for Mississippi State, 31-20. But I am expecting a fun environment and a good football game. What say you?
Yeah, I think it could be a close game for much of it, and I could see Tennessee kind of pulling away late. My worry is, again, the run game that Tennessee possesses and the struggle that we've seen Mississippi State have defending the run, and I don't think they're going to be able to create TFLs or any kind of sacks. And so I actually have 34-17 Tennessee, but I could see this being like a 7 or 10 point game going to the fourth and then kind of a pull away at the end. But yeah, I think Tennessee will end up kind of running away with it just because I just think they're much improved. Y'all should have beat Georgia. I thought y'all were going to beat Georgia. I picked y'all to beat Georgia, so I was hoping you'd beat Georgia. But I said on one of our shows earlier this week that I think y'all are poised for another college football playoff run, and I think y'all will win.
Should be a great game, great environment. My first time covering a game at Mississippi State, so I'm really looking forward to that. And to get you set leading up to kickoff, check out Locked On at Mississippi State for a scout on the Bulldogs, and, of course, Locked On Vols for a scout on the Vols. Jaren, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.
Yep, thank you.
This episode is brought to you in part by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, they keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is the Tennessee offensive line. Really not just this week, it's been every week. I mean, Tennessee continues to put up over 500 yards of total offensive efforts. Joey Aguilar is looking great. Chris Brazel, I mentioned earlier in the show, leading the nation in touchdowns. Tennessee's run game is truly looking great, and you can't do nothing without those 5 hog mollies up front, blocking and making it happen. Tennessee's offensive line truly is moving the game forward for sure. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda is where you can move and be moved. Throwback Thursday time here on Locked On Vols. Welcoming on Noah Taylor from Neyland Press Corps, and we're going to dial it back to 1954, Tennessee's win over Mississippi State. A little more than 71 years to the day that Tennessee's about to play Mississippi State this weekend. And this was kind of the coming out party for a Tennessee legend, a Tennessee Hall of Famer, former coach, former All-American halfback, and Johnny Majors, and really, really interesting story, Noah. So you broke it down in your Substack earlier this week, and I encourage everybody to go check that out. Subscribe to it. Links in the bio. Let's start with how Johnny Majors got to Tennessee, because I found this very fascinating part of your story, a little backstory on how, the guy that everybody knew to be that Tennessee legend didn't necessarily want to be at Tennessee, honestly, at the very beginning.
Yeah, it was kind of a chance meeting, really. Farmer Johnson, who was a defensive coordinator under General Neyland, was actually in Winchester visiting his wife's family in the spring of 1952. And while he was there, a lot of people kept saying, you got to go down to Huntland and check out this phenom, this kid, John Majors, coach's son. He's the best player we've seen in this area in a long time. So while he's down there, he decides to take the trip. It's 10 miles away or so. Pulls up on a practice and watches them take off. Huntland actually ran the single wing offense, which is what Tennessee famously ran under Neyland. And right away, Farmer Johnson was like, and I found this quote in a newspaper. He was like, he ran it as good as anybody we had back in Knoxville. And then he saw him punt the ball and then kick field goals and then throw passes and intercept passes. And he saw all this in one practice, approached him and his father, Shirley Majors, who again was the head coach. And he said, we'd really like to have you at Tennessee. Johnny Majors at the time it was hesitated. He didn't really know how to feel about it. Didn't think his game would translate. At this time, he's probably like 150 pounds, 5'10", and a little guy, really, and thought, I don't know if I can play at the SEC level. He had his sights kind of set on Swanee, where his dad, ironically, goes on to become a pretty legendary coach. But Swanee and then Tennessee Tech were kind of the teams on his radar. But he said, well, come visit anyway. So he and his family would go to games that 52 season on official visits, I guess you'd call them. And then all of a sudden, that 52 season as a senior at Huntland, he was not a secret anymore. Alabama came in with offers, Auburn, Georgia Tech, and everybody kind of knew about him. He scored. I'm going off the top of my head here, but he was responsible for something like 215 points his senior year. You probably have it pulled up there.
213.
213 points his senior year. His dad, ironically, a lot of his damage was done on long runs because his dad, was so adamant about not showing favoritism to him that he wouldn't give him the ball inside the 20. So,
and think about this week, Bruce Pearl retiring so his son could be the head coach at Auburn. Things change in a hurry.
Yeah, completely different times, it seems like. And it's funny because of the story, how he ended up at Huntland. He's a Lynchburg guy. It's where the Majors were from. His dad obviously coached at Huntland down the road. But Johnny Majors' freshman year, he was at Lynchburg High School. I think it was their only win that year. They beat Shirley Majors' Huntland team like 19-13. Johnny Majors scored 2 touchdowns, and Shirley Majors said, "I'm not losing my boys ever again." So the next year, the family moved down to Huntland, and that's how he became a legend at Huntland High School. But the offers came rolling in. He ultimately signed with Tennessee. It was actually General Neyland's last recruiting class, but he didn't get to coach Johnny Majors. He retired after the 52 season. And Johnny Majors arrives. He's still hesitant about going there. I think a family friend was going to Kingsport and dropped him off in Knoxville. I mean, even then, it's funny to think, not an easy trip, I guess, to get there. So they had a family friend passing by. They dropped him off on campus. And if you read his autobiography, he said, I was crying. There were tears in my eyes. I hadn't been away from my family before. Wasn't sure I was going to ever play a down here. I didn't think I would. I thought I was going to embarrass myself in front of the freshmen. And then he gets to his first scrimmage, and he breaks off a couple runs, starts feeling a little more confident. And General Neyland's there. And a lot of people probably heard this story before, but General Neyland, at this time, he's the AD, so he's around. And he would sit and watch practices at Shields Watson Field. And he sees this guy break off some runs. I think he was wearing number 10 at the time, and scream down to the field, who's this number 10? And Farmer Johnson yelled back, "It's Majors from Huntland." So as soon as that practice was over, he darted out of the stadium down the street to a drugstore and called his dad. And he said, "Daddy, it turns out they missed tackles up here just like they did back in high school." So his confidence had grown after that first scrimmage, and really kind of sets the stage for that first game he got to play against Mississippi State 2 years later.
Yeah, it's wild. Again, you got General Neyland that's no longer the coach and just kind of sitting up there in the stands and yelling down there. And I don't know, it's just funny to think about. I need to read his book because talking with you every single week. I mean, obviously I knew of General Neyland, but it sounds like he was such an interesting feller. But anyway, I could just picture in my mind him up there just yelling down at practice all the time, good and bad. But the Huntland Hornet, as they phrased him, Johnny Majors. 213 points responsible for 2,550 yards rushing, a state record as a senior. So he gets to Tennessee, as you mentioned. Freshman can't play back then. As a sophomore, not supposed to play, right? There's a couple of guys in front of him in the depth chart. Injuries. They pushed him and another guy up the depth chart, put in a couple new plays. Early in that Mississippi State game, fumbles in the red zone, misses a PAT. And it looks like it's kind of a disastrous day until after he gets slung for a 15-yard loss, he rattles off an 81-yard touchdown run, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was one of those plays they installed that week, so it was kind of added to the playbook that would fit these new guys in the backfield. And like you said, I mean, he was on the doorstep of his first career touchdown early in that game, fumbled it into the end zone. I mean, lucky for Tennessee, it's recovered. But again, misses the PAT. And then they get down there. I think the play is called 57W, and there was an off tackle play, and he describes it in his book where you fake the pitch and take off and to the outside, and that's what he did. One guy gets a chance on him down the sideline, but he outruns him, and then that ends up being the deciding score for Tennessee. They go on to win 19-7. They were trailing 7-6 before it, and he comes back to the sideline, and you probably see the picture there on the site. One of my favorite all-time Tennessee football pictures. But he comes back to the sideline. Two Tennessee cheerleaders are waiting for him, and he snaps a photo with them. And it turns out to be a Nashville banner photographer had asked the coaches if he could take the picture. And so he gets the picture. He said years later in his autobiography that, I was doing what I was told. If that happened there's no way that would happen on my sideline today as a head coach. So, but we got an awesome picture out of the deal. And that wasn't all he did that day. He had an interception as well, had a 40-yard return on the interception, had a bunch of other long runs. And by the end of that day, everybody knew who Johnny Majors was. And it kind of really started his legend as a player. And then obviously we all know what happened as a head coach. But, I thought it was great. His family was there. They made the trip down to Memphis. At the time, his younger brother, Bill, obviously would go on and play a big part on Tennessee's defense at the end of the 50s, was in on that big stop of Billy Cannon against number 1 LSU in 59. Bobby Majors, who was only 5 years old at the time this game was played. He's one of the greatest defensive backs the school's ever had. And his mom was quoted, all the newspapers were there, and his mom said, I want to enroll Bobby at Tennessee right now. I want to send all my kids here. And the coach at the time, Harvey Robinson, even, he was standing right there and said, well, send them all up here. You don't get boys like Johnny often. So all the Majors brothers ended up at Tennessee, all had really great careers, obviously starting with Johnny. But I thought was really cool, too, is Mississippi State at this time was coached by Darrell Royal, who went on to have a, phenomenal career, won 3 national championships at Texas, really got the wishbone offense installed into college football in the 70s. He's coached Mississippi State at the time, and he knew that Johnny Majors had been moved up the roster and knew that Tennessee didn't really have big plans for him that year. And he told reporters, how did they leave? How were they not planning to play that guy this year? And that kid beat us today. So high praise from a guy who ended up being a coaching legend in his own right. But as far as Tennessee-Mississippi State games go, that's a pretty memorable one, all things considered.
I know you're obviously you're a dork of past events and everything. I love like old newspaper clippings. I mean, this stuff is so cool. This is from, which one is this, Noah?
I believe it's the News Sentinel. I think.
Oh no, it's a Journal. It's the Journal.
Okay, the Journal. Yeah.
Vols unleash bright new running star as Majors spearheads 19-7 victory. Sophomore tailback dazzles Maroons with long run. There's another one here. Majors paces UT to 19-7. I don't know. This is from the Sentinel. I just love the layout of old news. Also, when did the News Sentinel drop the hyphen?
I'm not too sure. I'll have to look at that. I see so many of them during the week. I probably could tell you if I paid attention to it, but
I literally just went and looked at the News Sentinel website. There's no hyphen there, so investigative reporting. We got to see when they drop the hyphen. Good stuff. Noah just kind of gave you the highlights there of Johnny Majors' first game in a Tennessee uniform, his sophomore year. 1952, Tennessee held on for the 19-7 victory, I believe, over Mississippi State, and a little more than 71 years to the day that Tennessee and Mississippi State are going to square off in Starkville this weekend. So it should be really, really good stuff. All right, Noah, as always, man, appreciate it, and we'll talk again next week on the bye week. I'm intrigued to know what you're going to do for the bye week because Tennessee's got no game, but we'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Eric. I'm intrigued, too, at this moment because I don't know what we're going to do, but it's definitely easier when Tennessee gets to play an SEC team. And, with the schedule news last night, looking ahead to next season, we get some games that haven't been on the Tennessee schedule for a while, so that'll be fun as well.
Well, fun show today, man. Neyland Press Corps, Noah Taylor, 1954 win over Mississippi State. That was fun. Great catching up with Jaren of Locked On Mississippi State, getting the scout on the Bulldogs behind enemy lines, and, of course, taking a look specifically at Joey Aguilar versus Blake Shapen. So this has been a fun show, fun-filled show. Appreciate you guys for being here. Tomorrow's show, we'll get you set for the weekend, how Tennessee can beat Mississippi State. We'll catch up with Boogie Bentley, Locked On Talking Vols, that little segment we like to combine, Locked On Vols, Talking Vols Network on Friday mornings of football season. All that and more you have to look forward to coming up on a Friday morning. Tennessee, Mississippi State, just days away. Appreciate you guys for being here. This is Locked On Vols.